Okay without the microphone because it's a good opportunity in a small room like this to hear just the guitar, and especially when I talk about some of the sounds and techniques, and also because when I play in concert I do use a microphone, and this maybe is a special opportunity to hear it without the microphone. So I'll get as close as I can to you. So thank you very much. This is my first visit to Korea. I'm very happy to be here, and I would like to compliment all three of the players here who did a very wonderful job. I was just playing in Shanghai and Hong Kong, and now here in Seoul. When I was in Shanghai at the Shanghai International Guitar Festival, I had a chance to hear Sung Ha play for the first time, and that was a great pleasure. So I know that there's must be some very good players here in Korea, so I'm excited to be here. This is a Loudon guitar. It's a maple guitar. They make it, this one specially to my specifications. It's a slight modification of a guitar that they make called the F model. And this is the F model, Alex de Grassi's signature model. And it's a very loud guitar, and I play with a lot of volume, I think so. I think I'll just play, I'm going to play first an arrangement of a famous, a piece by a famous jazz musician named Charles Mingus. No, I'm sorry, I'm not going to play that. I'm going to play first something by another famous jazz pianist named Thelonious Monk. And then I'll also play some of my own music tonight. This is in standard tuning. And then I'll talk a little about the idea behind the arrangement and some of the techniques that I use. It's called Round Midnight. of the things that I like to do very much as a solo guitar player. And one of the things that I find is valuable information for players who are developing their performing techniques and their skills, whether they're playing as amateurs or as professionals or young people, students, is to talk a little bit about how to make your guitar arrangements or your performances have a very orchestrated sound. For example, when you play, if you play with a band, or if you played with an orchestra, or if you played with some kind of a group, you would have different instructions for the different players. So, for example, in an orchestra, you would say the flute players should play a certain way. They should play loud, or they should play with a very bright tone. And the cello players should play soft, and they should play with a very long bowing technique or something like this. So when we play guitar, we have the opportunity to also make the different parts of the music sound different from each other. So in this arrangement I just played, for example, if I start like this and go, it reminds me of a bass player, like playing the big, stand-up bass like this. So when I then play the melody in the piece, I play right here at this part of the melody. I put some vibrato on the note. I bend the string while I hold the bass note. Just 2 notes. Now I know that if I wanted to play the whole chord, that would be the chord. C sharp minor half diminished. But because I'm thinking that I want it to sound orchestrated like 2 different musicians, when I play the chord, it sounds like a chord. But when I play this, it suddenly sounds like a bass player and a singer, like 2 musicians, even though I play less notes. It's an interesting, we call this what do we say? It's ironic, we say in English. So, and then when I play the rest of the melody, I let go of the bass note. So instead of playing, I play. Now when I play the bass note, I can approach it with a slide. Now right there I play a small chord. There I put the vibrato again while I hold the bass note. This makes the melody really stand out from the bass line, from the chords, what we would call the accompaniment. And then later on in the piece, right there I play the melody. We call this articulation. You hear how each note has a very distinct sound. It's not, it's, then I play the chord afterwards, very softly, behind the melody. This again makes it sound like 2 different players, 2 different musicians. It gives it a more arranged, orchestrated sound. So please stop me if you don't understand, because I know you all speak English far better than I will ever speak Korean. So this becomes a very important part. Now, also, when I make the arrangement, I'm thinking, what do I want my arrangement to sound like? So I imagine that my arrangement sounds like a trio, like 3 musicians actually. One is the singer, and the singers always have the biggest egos, they're the most important. So they tell the bass player and the piano player, don't play too much. So when I play this is the piano player. Playing very softly, because the singer is... There's the bass player. Melody. Always the melody in front with the articulation. There's the piano player, the singer, bass player. Then I see how I stop the string. Then the piano player comes in again behind the singer. So this is my way to imagine the arrangement. It's not important that the audience understands what I'm thinking, but because I have a concept, because I have an idea of how I want it to sound, the audience hears something. They say, there's something going on. So this is something that I think makes the music have a lot more depth to it, instead of listening like everything at one level. You're hearing something in the foreground, something in the background. When you take a photograph with a serious camera like this one, you're able to adjust the depth of field, right? So you can say, how much do I want this in the background to show up? Do I just want to see Alex and his guitar, or do I want to see Alex and his guitar with the perspective of all the nice graffiti back here on the wall? And if you want to see the graffiti as well, you have to add some depth of field to the photograph. So it's the same thing when I'm playing. I put the piano player in the background. And the bass player maybe is standing here, and the piano player is over there somewhere. So I like to think of the music as having both an orchestrated or arranged sound, like different instruments playing together, and also for it to have some depth. So, I'll play something else. Can you hear all right back in the back?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I can use the microphone, but I think it's nice to not, if I can, not to. So this is a tuning probably some of you are familiar with. It's just simply tuning the bass string down to D. Drop D tuning, yeah. Okay. So I'm going to play this. It's something in this tuning, and then I'm going to do some more unusual tunings. Okay. This is yet another arrangement. This is an arrangement of a folk song, actually an American folk song. It's a cowboy song. You know what the Cowboys?
Yeah.
Cowboys? Okay, so in the history, the brief history of the United States, the cowboys had to round up all the cows and make a long cattle drives. They had to take them from one part of the West to another part of the West. And because North America is a very big place, these often took very long time, like maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months. They had these long cattle drives, they call them. So this is a song originally written, maybe someone in the middle of the 19th century by a cowboy, and who hopes that when he dies, they will not bury him somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. So it's called Bury Me Not on the Lone Prairie. The prairie is the wide open space where nobody lives. So now I'll try something in a different tuning. So how many of you are familiar with using this tuning? Is called DAD-GAD, D-A-D-G-A-D. Yeah. So a few of you. Yeah. Okay. I use many different tunings. Some players use only standard tuning. Some players, like the very famous French guitar player Pierre Ben-Suzanne, he uses only this tuning. I played, when I used the alternate tunings, because I use many different ones, I don't know each of the alternate tunings as I can't name the chords as quickly as I can in a standard tuning. But I played a number of times with Pierre Ben-Suzanne on concerts together, and one time we played, and I was calling the chords to him. I was playing in standard tuning, he was playing in DAD-GAD. And he knew all the chords, you know. E7 flat 9, you know, he's like, G minor, you know, flat 5. You know. So he could play them. But one of the things I enjoy about the alternate tunings is because I don't know everything quite so well, sometimes I discover things that I not by mistake exactly, but in a new way, like it's fresh for me. So I'm going to play you a new piece that I've written that I haven't recorded yet. This is inspired by the soul musician James Brown. You know James Brown? Okay, so this is called Mr. B Takes a Walk in the Rain. things I like about the tuning, are there any piano players or any keyboard players? No, just guitar players. You didn't allow the piano players to come, I guess. In this tuning, if I play this chord, for example, I get a nice chord because I studied jazz piano a little bit. This chord is a kind of chord voicing that is not usually available on the guitar. So in this tuning, this chord voicing, it has a the root, the D, the seventh, the ninth, the minor third, and the fifth. And also another fifth here if you want to. And then I can change this. These are, I don't know if the piano's in tune, but if I play and the bass would be, whoops, sorry. So it allows me to get a kind of chord that I can also get on the piano that's a very typical of a jazz piano chord. So that's an interesting reason to use these alter tunings. So for those of you who may not have experimented with alter tunings, this is one of the reasons that I think a lot of us guitar players like to do it, is suddenly we get new chords like this one that I was using. These are chord voicings that are hard to get in a standard tuning. So that's one reason to use an alter tuning like this. Another reason would be because when you tune the guitar this way, D, A, D, G, A, D, you get sometimes a increased resonance, a little more sound, because certain overtones, certain harmonics are strengthened. They're reinforced by the way the guitar is tuned. So some people, when they first use an open tune, they go, wow, it sounds great, all I have to do is just play. But of course you have to learn how to do more than that. So that's the second reason, is it increased resonance, just the actual sound. This piece, like the Round Midnight, the first one I played, again, I try to think about the different parts of the music. So when I first, my bass line is very simple. Just go. Very simple, but I try to make it sound like, that kind of a slap electric bass sound. So I have an idea how I want it to sound, the different parts. So I keep these notes short in the bass, but I play them hard so that the string hits the frets and makes a, or I could slap it. And then the chord over the fret like that to mute it a little bit. And I'm also, as soon as I play the note, I'm not even pressing down all the way. Or as soon as I play it, I let go. So I'm getting this kind of a sound. And then when I play the melody, I'm again articulating the melody a little different. And I'm playing it louder than the middle part. The middle part is soft. So the melody, I'm taking each note and trying to play it a little bit differently. So now I have my three parts again. The melody, which could be somebody singing. The bass, which sounds a little like an electric bass to me. And then I have more kind of a rhythm chord part in the middle. And they each have their own sound. They each have their own volume to a certain extent. So I use that again to create this depth of field that I was talking about, and also to really give the sense that there's more than one part. When you play solo guitar, if I played with two other guitar players, each guitar player would bring their personality, they would bring their way of playing to the music. When I play solo, you try to have each part have a little personality of its own. So that's something I try to do in this.